Welcome back to the podcast, the only podcast dedicated solely to law enforcement recruiting. And as usual, I have my co-host here, Doug Larson, the COO of Safeguard Recruiting. And Doug, it has been busy. I'm glad to have you back. What's been going on in the world of police recruiting lately?
Yeah, it sure has been busy. A lot of departments doing their best to get as many people hired as they can. It's, always going to be an issue with attrition for one with these larger departments and just them sourcing enough people and enough quality applicants and get them through the process and hired. So it is busy and it's sure picking up lately.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because we don't talk a lot about retention a lot. And obviously there's an aspect of, hey, you need to talk to enough people to get enough people hired. But then if you can slow the back end out, which is retention, you can actually help the front end. And so I think a lot of people are ignoring that aspect. And part of that is because, it's hard to correct, right? It's hard to correct if people are leaving your department quicker than you want them to. That's probably a cultural issue or a bigger problem to correct. But you guys have just recently partnered with a company that's really helping with that. Are you ready to talk about that at all?
Yeah, we are. We've been in the beginning stages talking to a group that it does really well with retention, and we're going to bring on a bunch of their practices, and we're going to work together on this to be able to help departments slow that flow and just help not only officers when they're new in the game, what they should do and what they should expect, what their families should expect, but how do people get help when they need it as they go through their career?
That's the one thing I love, Doug, is what Safeguard does is you guys attack things as a all-encompassing solution, right? I mean, if you've been listening to this show over the past year or two, you know that, if you go to the early episodes, there were so many things that we weren't doing. And as we move along, I mean, now you're not only looking at retention, you've already brought on Safeguard Connect, which was sort of the organizational applicant tracking problem you were encountering with some agencies that needed it. And now, you can now take people all the way through. You're doing psychological testing and background testing and everything. And so you're not really openly advertising that because, you're a recruiting company. But if an agency calls you and says, hey, we need a test and we need background checks, we need psychological testing, you're now providing all that as well.
Yeah, we are. And we can be a one-stop shop for people. We can handle all of that now. And you're exactly right. Safeguard just keeps growing in the features they add, and it's out of needs for what departments need and what they ask for. And so we're adding all these features in here. So you can come to one place, you can get your officers sourced, and you can get them tested, you can get everything done. And the backgrounds, it's pretty slick how it all works, and it can feed together and be tracked through Connect really easily.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. I've seen some of the work there. It's pretty amazing. And when you talk about needs, that sort of brings us to our topic of the day, which is immediately going to get everybody to fall asleep. That is request for proposals. We awfully commonly refer to those as RFPs, right? And so just to make sure if the audience isn't aware, if an agency is spending a lot of money, and it's different barriers, different agencies, it may be 25,000 or maybe 100,000. But if you're going to spend more than that from a government, you've got to go to bid, right? You've got to get bidders. And so when you do that, you have to write a request for proposal, meaning this is what people are bidding on. And so and we hear this routinely, Doug, is we say, hey, we need to hire more people. And then they put out a request for proposal that literally won't help them hire more people. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes these requests for proposals are lacking in the recruiting aspect of it, and they're more asking for marketing elements that aren't going to solve their problem. And so we've seen a number of those come out, and even when we go to these meetings on these requests for proposals, it's the bulk of them are marketing companies that are trying to get involved, and just based off the questions they ask, they clearly have no idea what goes on in law enforcement or how it functions. And so it creates some issues because we understand, you and I have been on both sides of this. We've been on the government side and we're on the other side, so we understand how purchasing processes work. But if you don't word those right and ask for the right thing, you might not get what you think you're going to get.
I think so much of it's education. So, because I'll give you an example. I used to work on RFPs for cars, right? Well, it's easy. We want a Ford Crown Vic. I'm sort of dating myself. We want a Ford Explorer with a V8 engine. I knew what to ask for. It was a thing, right? Or we need so many licenses of Microsoft Office. You know what you're asking, but this is a philosophy. They're asking for more people, but you've got to know the philosophy that gets you more people. Because if you don't know that, you're going to be asking for something that doesn't do that whatsoever. Am I right there?
Well, exactly right. It's one thing to have enough people interested in working for you and how you go about that. And that doesn't mean we want more people just looking at our website. We want people that actually are interested in working for us and taking the next steps. And that's an entire process that needs to happen to engage that person from initial interest to all the way to application and to hire. And that is not the process you're going to get just from a straight marketing company.
Well, and Philadelphia is a prime example. And I know people see me pick on him, but we've got such a great relationship with Captain Walker over there, and he's been on the show before, so he doesn't mind us talking about it. But they did an RFP and spent $3 million before they called you, Doug. They spent $3 million, and I believe Captain Walker's quote was, "It got worse. Our recruiting got worse." And so he saw some of this content on this show and went, "Oh my gosh, I think we just paid $3 million to marketing. That's why it got worse." And so once he came on board with Safeguard, boom, they've surpassed everything they wanted. They've surpassed every academy's been higher than they expected. They've surpassed all their goals, and they're not spending $3 million with you, I imagine, Doug.
No, they're not. Yeah, I wish they were, but they're not, and they don't need to, because you don't need to spend that much to get the kind of volume they need to be successful. And Captain Walker, I mean, he's brilliant. He does a lot of research. He's very tuned in, and he knows, he understands, because he's done so much research. He's tried things, that what works and what doesn't work. And he's a great leader for their recruiting department.
And listen, we're not bad mouthing police departments because we don't expect them to know. But here's a way a lot of these RFPs work, because I've been involved in it. So have you, Doug. Is you call the purchasing department and you go, "Hey, we need a RFP for more officers." Well, they go out and here's the dirty little secret is, before ChatGPT, I'm sure it's worse now, is they go out and there's these services that will give you a cookie cutter RFP. Is you type in marketing, advertising, recruiting, and it's the cookie cutter RFP, and you just copy, paste, send out. Because we have seen a lot of RFPs that all read the same, because we know that's happening. And so they're not thinking about, well, I'm going to get exactly what I asked for here. So I'll just give you my opinion of it, Doug, real quick, is your RFP should be very simple. In fact, I wouldn't even recommend an RFP. What's the document for the RFP where they just sort of source information, Doug? What's the name of that?
The RFI, request for information.
Request for information. So you just want to get everyone's ideas. And in there, just say, we need to hire more people. Tell me what you can do to do that, and give us your success stories and case studies. Because the last thing you want to do is hire some local marketing firm that has never done this before and expect them to actually recruit for you. And probably through the RFI process, you'll find some ideas. But when it comes to the RFP, it really is simple. I need to hire X number of people. What is this going to cost, and how are you going to do it, and prove it to me? That's really all you got to say. But that's not what we're seeing, Doug. We're seeing we need to market on YouTube, and we need a banner, and we need a billboard ad, and but that's really the wrong approach. Listen, no offense, if you knew how to recruit RFP writer, you wouldn't need to write an RFP on recruiting. So what you need to do is put the onus on the companies, being Safeguard one of them, and say, we need help. We need to hire this many people. How do you do it, and prove it?
You're exactly right. And get those best practices in there, what you think is going to work for you, and then write up your RFP properly. So, because some of these places are not going to get the results that they need. And so now they've got less budget once this is over with, and a bad taste in their mouth. And on the flip side of that too, we have cooperative agreements too, so you can get around the RFP, and we've already been vetted on those. But if you have to go the RFP route, you're definitely right. You definitely want to get as much information as you can and write them properly, or you're going to end up with not the kind of names and applicants that you're looking for.
Yeah, and the problem that we see with that is it's almost like Philadelphia. They spent their money. I mean, they spent their money. And so by the time they got calling you, they had just a little bit of money that they tried to scrap up. But imagine if they said, instead of spending $3 million with a marketing company, I mean, I don't know, let's just break it down and say, let's give $2 million to a marketing company and $1 million to a recruiting company. Man, for $1 million, they're staff full, right? Because it's all a numbers game. Because you guys,
Yep.
Doug, when you tell them how many people they're going to get based on a spend, you can tell them exactly. So if anybody's talking to a companies out there, you got to ask them that question. If I give you this much money, how many people will I be able to hire? If they can't answer that, you are speaking to a marketing company, are you not?
Yeah, at that point, be very leery or run, because you don't know what you're going to get in the end game. And people clicking on your website doesn't mean applications or people interested in working for you. And so you need to be very careful with that. We tell people up front, go to our website. We have different packages on there. You're going to know exactly what you're going to get on what you sign up for. And we guarantee that you're going to get this many people coming through the door every single month. And then you can prepare for that volume and you can deal with that volume.
So right on your website, front page, safeguardrecruiting.com, you have 3 different tiers. And at the top of the tier, it says how many people you're going to get. You guys guarantee it.
Yep, guarantee it. That will happen when you sign up for us. We're going to deliver.
Guaranteed or money back, which is kind of insane. Now, listen, we're not just talking the talk here. In the show notes of this podcast, we have a download for you on best practices on RFP. So everything we've talked about and more is in that document. Just go down to the body of this video and click on the link. It's just going to bring up a PDF for you. You can dump it, download it, do whatever you want, because you've got to ask for the right things to actually get something that's going to solve your problem. Doug, any closing thoughts here?
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to read that and ask questions, because you don't want to put an RFP for a lot of money and then it doesn't deliver for you. So you're exactly right. I like to educate as much as we can.
I don't know how you made RFP show sexy, Doug, but it was pretty sexy to talk about. So congratulations.
All right.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.